a candy-colored fantasy masterpiece. It allows children something to dream about. It gives them a wonderland to lose themselves in and to see themselves as a part of. And it offers more mature viewers a sentimental way to confront certain things that they still haven't been able to process from their youth. I'm your cult boyfriend. Today we are talking about Donkey Skin, directed by Jacques Demy, a fantasy film starring Catherine Deneuve, and, you know, Demy and Deneuve together, Jacques and Catherine. It's movie magic every time, and that is such an apt word to use, for this is a very magical film. I'm not the biggest fantasy guy. It's not a genre that speaks to me very clearly. I tend to have difficulties engaging with the fantasy genre. I just simply don't like it. It's not for me. This film, though, this film's fucking beautiful. This film is lovely. It's like Jacques Demy meets Disney's Sleeping Beauty meets Alice in Wonderland proper, right? And it's like pure fantasy. The colors are so incredibly enveloping, like engulfing. The colors are gorgeous. They're beautiful. My favorite things about the film, I think, are the costumes. I think it's the costume design. I love it. There's a whole bit. There's a whole kind of like a montage really where Catherine, who is playing a princess, a king's daughter, and the king wants to marry her because, as I mentioned, this is fantasy, and incest is a staple of the fantasy genre, which is also why fantasies fucking aren't that good normally. But Demi kind of turns it on its head by playing directly into it and laying what he would call booby traps. These kinds of sentimentally confrontational, liberating motifs throughout his fantasy masterpiece here. But during the sequence that I was originally talking about, where the fairy godmother is talking to Catherine, and she's like, "No, no, no, no. You're confusing the love for a father for some kind of romantic love. You're not supposed to marry your father. Let's make absurd requests like." Oh, here's one. Request that he make you address the color of weather. And my God, that dress is so incredible. It's like animated as if clouds are passing through this beautiful, deep, bright blue. And it looks so beautiful on Catherine Deneuve. It looks so incredible. It's one of the most everlasting things that Demi ever came up with and ever photographed and ever realized on film. I love that dress so much, and Catherine just looks so absolutely to die for. But she looks like a princess, really. She looks incredible there. And the same could be said of the dress that looks like the moon or the color of the sun. But really, it's that color of weather, the color of good weather dress that just sends me spinning. I love it. I love that dress so much. And also, only Catherine Deneuve can pull off having to wear like the carcass of a donkey for most of the film. Okay, she really pulled it off, made that shit look sexy, made it look good. But so the fantasy genre, right? What is Demi doing with the fantasy genre? Well, as I said earlier, he's laying these booby traps, and he called them booby traps. I'm not calling them that for him. I'm not misappropriating some of his complexities. These sophistications were laid there by Demy as booby traps which have a sort of playful connotation to them. One of my problems about the fantasy genre has always been that there's always an infantilizing effect on the viewer. And I believe that's an unavoidable thing because most fantasy films are taking these metaphors for extremely complicated things and offering very simple solutions to them. This is not the first time you've heard this criticism, I'm sure. It's a very common one. But I think Demy knows that, right? So he plays directly into that infantilization. But it's a booby trap. He tricks the more mature or adult audience members um, to use a different part of their self, a different part of a different part of their capacity as a person, as a viewer, a more childlike part, uh, aspect of themselves, and they watch this fantasy film with the child eyes of an adult. It's really the clearest way I can put it, which still isn't too clear, but when he gets you into that mode, he's able to show you the liberating effects of being romantically motivated, the liberating effects of being romantically understood and validated. Um, it's by being infantilized by the fantasy genre that he can empower certain parts of you that have been broken down by adulthood. And I think that's really incredible. The most incredible thing about Donkey Skin, yes, is the composition, are the costumes, is Catherine, because she's gorgeous, my god. But the direction is so good. And it also plays with the idea of artifice. It does play with the superficiality inherent, intrinsic to the fantasy genre. And is so theatrical about it because this is still a musical. Michel Legrand, Demy's longtime collaborator, arranger of music, his composer, truly, returns to Donkey Skin to write some pretty lovely and playful and whimsical songs and ballads and tunes. They're really nice. And there's such a theatricality that is perfectly at home with the fantasy. Demy, I mean, this just feels natural. This feels natural for Demy, and he created another masterpiece of a genre. And how he did it was he brought the musicality, he brought the theatricality, and he brought the uniquely that unique Demy philosophy to it. That philosophy that is always winning, that is always just so heartfelt and so charming. He brought that to the fantasy genre, and just like he did with Lola and with Umbrellas and with the young girls of Rochefort, he created another masterpiece, Donkey Skin. He he gave us a wonderful fantasy. He, of course, put his own spin on it. I mean, this feels like such a beautiful film because it is such a remarkably pristine and gorgeous film. So full of inventiveness, so full of color, so full of beauty, so full of innocence. But beneath that innocence is empowerment. Beneath that innocence is liberation. And within that liberation, fantasy becomes reality. Because just like with Young Girls of Rochefort, where he wanted you to go out to the streets and dance, he wanted you to leave that movie theater and dance in the street and sing at the top of your lungs, especially if you didn't know how to do either. If you can take that simple lesson that Donkey Skin tries to teach you about, God, romantic sovereignty, about romantic control, about the beauty, about your birthright, the birthright to be beautiful and to have a lover that you want. If you can take the lessons from Donkey Skin and apply it to the real world, if you can take cinema to the streets and back again. So what would Demy want you to do here? He wants you to leave something loveless. He wants you to be who you wanted to be. He wants you to be who you'd want to be with. And he'd want to make you feel like a princess. But even more than that, more mature than that, he'd want to make you feel like a queen. My name's Your Cult Boyfriend, and this has been my review of Donkey Skin.